Good morning, namaste. Welcome to Sacred Sunday Sadhana, number 11. Are we on 11? 11 is my favorite number because you can crank it up to 11. Take a moment and just settle yourself into a sacred space. Here's what I have to create. The outside is already a sacred space, and I've got my chakra wind chime. But in addition to that, I've got my beautiful tongue drum, some mud water, which is just mushroom tea, and my journal. So let's just begin a sacred practice together, settling deeply, whatever that means for you today. Remember that these practices, the idea is that they can become like a reset button to enter the rest of your week as the highest version of yourself, and just really notice the best and the most out of this wonderful life. I wasn't sure what I was going to talk about today, and usually that's how it is. It just kind of comes to me at some point, maybe as late as like Saturday night, and I'm like, oh yeah. But even just a few moments ago getting ready, I was like, I'm not sure what I want to reconnect with Source about. I don't know what I want to reconnect with my tribe about. And I try to start where I am. And where I am right now is in a really deep, overwhelming pool of just trying to understand and connect with my teenage daughter. It's the most painful and the most challenging experience that I've ever had, is raising a teenage daughter. And it's so specific that I felt like that probably isn't a good topic for a Sacred Sunday Sadhana. But if I open it, if I let it blossom and just really look at what's there, like what's beneath the details of the story, then I thought that sounds like something good that I can talk about. So if I unfold, if I take this tight bud of what's happening between my daughter and I just like let it open to the sun, open to the rain, open to the air, I can notice as I step back when I'm in my witness body, so in the Vijnanamaya Kosha, I can notice that really the bigger concept that's going on is about acceptance, allowing things to be the way they are, and not creating more suffering by wanting things to be different than they are. So that's where we're going to go. So whether it's a teenage daughter situation in your life, or a relationship of any kind, or even the pandemic, whatever it may be for you that you're just having a really hard time being with, let's plug it in to this Sacred Sunday Sadhana, and let's see if we can come up with some good tools together to just reconnect to Source and move through it with grace and be still with grace. Moving through is something that's really easy for me, but being still is hard. I'm not good at being stuck. And so notice what you need, and let's get what you need out of it. Are you really good at being stuck? Do you get stuck a lot and you need to move through? Then that's where your focus will be. I'm always moving, always flitting to the next thing. So what I'm going to do is hover. I'm a hummingbird in this analogy. Instead of flitting, I need to hover. And before we talk about the absence of suffering, then I just want to remind you of what I mean when I say connecting to source. So of the yamas and niyamas, the 10th is Isvara Pranidhana, which is total surrender to God. And you can spend years, months, however long you need, examining and re-examining what is God? Like, what does that mean for you? And it's not just like, oh, this is going to be a fun philosophical thing to think about. It goes much farther beyond that. If you have a really solid concept and understanding of God in your heart and your mind, then it allows your life to unfold in the most beautiful way, in the supported way, that you just get the most enjoyment out of it and you suffer less. So you can be atheist. You can, if that title is like something that's really called to you, you can be an atheist and still have like some sort of semblance of there's more than this. There's more than skin bags and brick and mortar. You can be Christian, you can be Muslim, you can be Jewish. It doesn't matter what your religion is. In this yogic way, there's butterflies and lizards scurrying behind. It's so wonderful, and I'm gonna get distracted because I'm a 4 on the Enneagram. There's just a lot of power in understanding what source is to you. So if the word God is something that you're not comfortable with, I invite you to use the word source or universal consciousness or universe. But basically, for me, this is my experience, and you can journal about your experience, and you can share with me your experience. I'd love to hear it. For me, when I'm connected to Source, when I'm connected to God, when I'm connected to my highest self, I can respond to everything from a place of love instead of fear. And I can kind of keep my chin up and just know, like, okay, this is what this is like. This moment does not define me. These thoughts that are arriving will pass. This body will pass. This is an experience I'm having in this moment. And I remember that I'm the author. I'm the author of this story, of my own story. I'm not the author of your story. You are the author of your story. You are your own authority. That was a real epiphany, mind-blowing moment when I realized that the word author is the root for authority. So if you haven't already done so, if you don't already know what God is for you, I encourage you to deeply look into that, because I don't know another way to live fully than to have that source to return to and to check in with and to hold a piece of inside yourself all the time. For me, it's how I'm living my best life, and I'm feeling fantastic, and I'm feeling like a radiant, beautiful being who gets to experience all the joys of being human, along with all the pains of being human. And it's the reason I wake up. It's why I want to get out of that cozy bed slumber, is to like have that curiosity to see like what's going to happen today. It's a great place for me to be in. I know what it feels like for me to not have a connection to anything. A connection to my family and friends for sure, but for me there was always something missing, something pretty huge missing, like everything was just a shell if I didn't have that understanding of God and source for me. So that's the premise. And if you've already done that homework, if you're already connected and you already know what being connected to source means for you, then you're ready to go back to that same principle. I'm sure you've looked at it hundreds of times, and we've talked about it before. It's a Buddhist concept of you can suffer by wanting something to be something that it's not. It's very simple. And you can avoid suffering by accepting and allowing things to be exactly as they are. So, we've talked about it in like small concepts, and it's really good to start small. I didn't know the cicadas were still out. I'm so happy. That's a good sign for me. We've talked about temperature, suffering with temperature. You know, it's so hot. If you're hot and you just keep wanting it to not be hot, not only does it suck that it's so hot, but then it starts to suck because you cannot have what you want. You cannot will the temperature to change. You're not going to, even though you're the author of your story, you're not in control of Mother Earth and her temperature. Like, you're not going to change climate control with your thoughts. And that's actually something we could talk about more deeply, because there is a way that you can. However, right now what we're talking about is just accepting things for how they are. So that's in the small picture. And the big picture, if I were to rewind the heated conversation between my daughter and I yesterday, and truly, we do have heated conversations where it's a back and forth. Yesterday, I was in a really good place hormonally, and it was less of a back and forth argument and more of an attack. I felt like I was being attacked, and I was really proud that I didn't succumb to saying anything mean. I didn't speak out of fear. But there I was, basically just being this, I was seen as a loathsome adversary to this person who I care more about than anyone in the world, and her sister. But looking back on that, perhaps I could have applied the concept of allowing it to be exactly what it was and kind of gotten out of the suffering, because I was suffering. I was really suffering, hurting emotionally, hurting physically. It was like hurting my throat. I was crying. But maybe, if we're in a situation, even like that can just feel so painful, is there a way that we can not add to the suffering by wishing that it wasn't happening? I think, I'm going to give myself a little bit more kudos. I do think I was present for that. Noticing, okay, this is happening, and not trying to wish it away. Just like allowing, like, this is what's happening right now. This is not going to be what's happening forever, but this is what's happening right now. This is very much happening. And even if that's the mantra, this is happening. This is happening. This is happening. We can, again, go out to something that's much smaller. Do you remember when we talked, it's been months and months, but we talked about, and Timber Hawkeye talks about it too, the Buddhist Boot Camp podcast guy, talks about not only being in the moment when things are wonderful, which is hard enough. Like, it's so beautiful and wonderful, and sometimes we're like on the phone or trapped in our minds in a conversation we'd had, where if we can just be with what is, we get to notice so much, and it's a great practice for staying with something when it's maybe not so great. So not only being grateful and really mindful when you're eating something delicious, but even when you're scooping the cat litter. Can you scoop the cat litter, and instead of like thinking, God, I want this to be done, just gotta hurry up, get through it, can you just enjoy those moments? Can you actually enjoy the motion of and the removal of the cat waste from the box. I think you can. I think that we can. I think that we can find, I don't want to say pleasure, maybe not even enjoyment, but certainly contentment. We can find contentment, which is santosha, even in scooping the cat litter, not wishing for it to be any different than it is, not needing any time to go by quickly, simply being there, being present. Being present is a present to yourself. So what if the next time you're in a sticky situation, whether it be, when is this pandemic going to end? When is this election going to be over? When is anything going to look remotely like I thought it would? When can I get out my day calendar? When can we plan vacations? All of those things, maybe you can remove a layer of the suffering by just accepting and allowing what is happening. This is where we are. I remember years and years ago, I was reading a book called The World We Have by Thich Nhat Hanh. And my dad came over and he saw the book, and he has recommended so many books to me over the years. And so I felt so happy that he had never seen the book and he went out and got the book as well. So months later, my dad was having a mental health crisis, and he sent me a long email and he signed it, "The Dad You Have," because the book was called The World You Have, or The World We Have. And it's really just about starting where you are. There's things that we want to do differently in our society and on the earth, but you can't get there by just loathing what's happening and wishing so much that it was different. Before you do that, because it is possible to make changes, but you just can't make changes from a space of wishing everything was different and just being frustrated and spending all that energy kind of rescinding what's happening. That's not how it works. That's not how anything works. What that does is just creates tension in the body, creates dis-ease in the body. So let's not do that. So accept the world you have, and then notice the changes you can make to get to the world you want to have. Or in this instance with my dad, I felt like it was like a kind of a, not secretive, but almost like a decoded message of please accept me for how I am right now. This is the dad you have. This might not be the dad you want, but I am the dad you have. And honestly, he is the dad I want. He's just hard on himself. But I think that same concept can be applied to not suffering. Start where you are. You cannot start where you're not. Whether it's you have a goal of wanting to lose weight, or you have a goal of wanting to quit drinking, or you have a goal of wanting to go to Hawaii, you have to really know where you are now before you can get to where you want to be. You have to embrace what's really happening. You have to be really honest with yourself about, where am I now? And so in my own situation with my daughter, I can just notice that this is where we are now. I know where I want to be with her. I know where I want to be with her, but I'm not going to get there by pretending or disillusioning myself into thinking that we have this perfect relationship. I need to really see the relationship we have. Allow it to be exactly as it is. Speak from my heart, speak from love about the way that I feel. Listen to the way that she feels. And then one little tiny minute at a time. So I hope all that made sense. As I said this morning, I wasn't sure what I might talk about, and I opened my journal to see if I had any quotes written down, and I'm not sure the author, but I had written down, the holder of the keys is you. The architect is you. No one will get in your way as much as you get in your own way. And that's not it doesn't fit in as much as the other two. But just remember that the holder of the keys is you. You get to decide. You get to author your own story and decide how much you want to suffer. You get to decide how much enjoyment you want out of life. You get to decide what's next. But you have to start with where you are, and you have to be willing to see and accept what's real, what's happening. To be honest with yourself, satya. You accept it, santosha. And all with the base of Isvara Pranidhana. So I invite you to sit with that for today, maybe for this week. I'm definitely going to be sitting with it. I have a real desire to fix. I'm always trying to fix. And there are some situations that just don't call for that. And so today, as I move through my day with my daughter, I'm going to be, instead of trying to fix it, I'm just going to be noticing and allowing and loving. And I just have to start where we are. I feel like I should probably play my tongue drum a little bit for you, because I already showed you. It's such a beautiful melody, and you don't need any skill at all to play it. You can look at the sky while you listen to the tongue drum. Thank you for being here with me on Sunday. Have a beautiful day. Namaste.